Now on BBC One, the lunchtime news with Emma Vardy.
Good afternoon. European allies have rallied behind Ukraine, insisting that any peace talks over the future of the country must include Kyiv. A joint statement was issued by the UK, France, Germany and other European allies ahead of Donald Trump's meeting with Vladimir Putin in Alaska on Friday. A White House official said that the US president is willing to include Volodymyr Zelensky, but for now it remains a summit between Mr. Trump and his Russian counterpart. Our World News correspondent Joe Inwood reports.
It is a grim, familiar sight. Another young soldier laid to rest in Ukraine. His name was Mikhailo. As his widow looks on, his mother reflects on the country's dilemma.
Right now, we don't have the opportunity to recapture our territories. But to prevent people from dying, we could sign some kind of agreement, but not give up our territories. Not agree that we are giving the captured territories to Russia.
That feeling that the war must end, but not in a way that rewards Russia's invasion, is not just found in this capital, but right across Europe. It was reflected at a hastily arranged meeting of European and Ukrainian security officials yesterday, hosted by the British Foreign Secretary and the US Vice President, and welcomed by President Zelensky.
And all the partners share the same understanding of the need for a ceasefire, for an end to the killings. Only one actor stands against this: Putin. His only card is the ability to kill, and he is trying to sell the cessation of killings at the highest possible price.
Afterwards, a joint statement by the UK, France, Germany, Poland, Italy, Finland and the EU praised US peace efforts. We are convinced that only an approach that combines active diplomacy, support to Ukraine and pressure on the Russian Federation to end their illegal war can succeed. We stand ready to support this work diplomatically, as well as by upholding our substantive military and financial support to Ukraine. Their fear was, and maybe remains, that when Presidents Putin and Trump meet here in Alaska next Friday, talk of territory swaps will really be about Ukrainian concessions. Some say it is inevitable.
The brutal reality is that if you want to get to peace in this conflict, you're going to have to accommodate some Russian determinations. For example, Russia is never going to return Crimea to Ukrainian jurisdiction. Similarly, for the two provinces of Donetsk and Luhansk, it is very unlikely that they will do so.
Even amidst talk of ceasefires, the fighting continues. Russia regularly releases footage of what it says are its battlefield successes, hoping they will add to the pressure on Ukraine to make concessions, no matter how painful. Joe Inwood, BBC News.
Police in London arrested more than 450 people yesterday at a demonstration in support of the banned group Palestine Action. Almost all of them were arrested for supporting the group, which, since it was designated a terror group last month, is punishable by up to 14 years in prison. Our correspondent, Aruna Iyengar, is with me now. So tell us what more we know about this very unusually large number of arrests.
Yeah, that's right. Metropolitan Police said today that yesterday's protests led to 466 arrests under the Terrorism Act and 5 for assaults on police officers. That number's likely to rise because the police will be updating those figures later today. Forces were brought in from right across the country to support the Metropolitan Police. They happened in Parliament Square, right in front of Parliament. The Met said they were braced to deal with hundreds of people whose intention was to be arrested by displaying banners supporting Palestinian Action. The group was proscribed in July this year, but the High Court is set to review that in November. Police said protesters whose details could be confirmed were bailed with conditions not to attend further protests in support of Palestinian Action. But those people whose identities couldn't be verified were taken into custody suites across London. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, said the decision to proscribe the group group was based on strong security advice. And she said those reasons for that could not be publicly reported due to ongoing legal proceedings. In June, Palestine Action supporters caused an estimated £7 million of damage to jets at RAF Brize Norton.
All right, Aruna, thank you so much for taking us through that. The United Nations Security Council will meet later today to discuss Israel's decision to expand its military operation in Gaza. The plan, which includes taking control of Gaza City, has been criticised by the UN and several countries, including the UK and France. In Israel yesterday, tens of thousands of people protested against the plan. Families of the hostages held in Gaza say their relatives will be endangered. In Gaza yesterday, according to the Health Ministry, at least 39 people have been killed, many of whom were trying to get aid. Foreign criminals will face immediate deportation after being handed a custodial sentence under plans announced by the government. Anyone who is sentenced and then deported will be barred from re-entering the UK. Around 1 in 8 prisoners in England and Wales were born outside of the UK. The proposals come at a time where ministers are trying to tackle an overcrowding crisis. Here's our political correspondent, Tony Bonsignore.
There are currently a little over 10,000 foreign nationals in the prison system, around 12% of the prison population. The government believes this proposed change in the law could cut those numbers significantly, helping to ease the prison crisis and saving taxpayer money. Under current rules, foreign nationals can be deported when they've served half their sentence. This was already due to fall to 30% later in the year. But now ministers say they want to go further and start deporting most foreign criminals as soon as they're handed their sentence. It would then be up to the authorities in that country to decide what to do with that individual. The government says the change wouldn't apply to the most dangerous offenders. They would remain in prison. And prison governors would be able to veto a deportation if they think an offender is a threat to the UK's interests or national security. But if approved by MPs, the change could apply to those already in prison.
These criminals would have been deported anyway. They would have been done at 50% of their sentence. We think that's wrong, that the taxpayer is funding any of that at all. They should be deported immediately, and we're bringing that forward, and we are sending them back as they would have been done anyway.
The Conservatives, though, are sceptical. They want the government to reform human rights law to allow more deportations. And they want visas and foreign aid to be suspended to those countries which refuse to take back their nationals. Tony Bonsignore, BBC News.
A diplomatic row has broken out between Niger and the US over a rare meteorite found in the West African nation, which has been sold at auction for over £3 million. The meteorite travelled more than 225 million kilometres before crashing down to Earth. Niger's government is questioning the legality of the export and whether it would constitute illegal international trafficking. The last street vendor of newspapers in Paris is to be decorated by President Macron with the Order of Merit. It's one of France's highest honours. Ali Akbar, who's 72, well, he's been selling copies of Le Monde in the neighbourhood of Saint-Germain since 1973, and he's being recognised for his contribution to French culture. When Emmanuel Macron was a student, well, he himself bought papers from Mr. Akbar. The fourth summer heatwave will hit parts of the UK this week with temperatures of up to 34 degrees. A yellow heat health alert covering much of England will come into effect from midday tomorrow until Wednesday evening. It marks a big change in the weather, of course, after Storm Floris battered Scotland and Northern England earlier in the week. Now, they're one of the world's most important seabird sanctuaries, and today the National Trust is celebrating 100 years of looking after the Farn Islands. Since the charity took ownership in 1925, the islands off the coast of Northumberland have faced serious challenges through climate change and avian flu. But now some species are showing signs of stabilising, as Fiona Trott reports.
A jewel in their crown. That's what the National Trust call these islands. They're a safe haven, a place where 200,000 seabirds come to breed. Some are endangered.
The feisty one?
Which is why rangers will even risk a puffin peck to protect them.
So we're just going to weigh it now.
The count on Inner Farn started over 70 years ago. Now in its 100th year, the charity's rangers are trying something new.
So the blue rings have got the a 3-letter code. So the idea is that we can try and recite them in the field. And then from that we could get an idea of how old they are, how far they might disperse.
There's lots of poo and feathers in the entrance.
But before then, they have to catch as many as they can.
So you're always going very carefully into the burrow because you don't know if you're going to get the bum or the beak.
Over 900 puffins perished during the avian flu outbreak, but early signs suggest their numbers are stabilising.
The birds are back, they're flying around, they're bringing around food to each other. It's looking good, so that's a relief for the 100-year mark. However, you're never safe. The puffins are endangered. There's so many problems they're facing out there and here. So as long as we're doing as much as we can here, then that's what we can do.
They've been burrowing here for years, but what else lies beneath their feet? Much is known about St Cuthbert's Chapel, but now the Trust is launching an archaeological survey with Bradford University to explore what was here centuries before.
We've got some really detailed written descriptions of what St Cuthbert constructed for himself. It's phenomenal. I mean, you don't regularly get windows into the past like that. We've all got everything crossed that something is found. But if nothing else, it's going to tell us, it's going to really reveal an awful lot about a millennia and a half of human occupation of Inner Farn.
Human history and natural history being investigated and protected for the next 100 years. Fiona Trott, BBC News, Northumberland.
Some rather adorable puffins there. That's what we're ending on. The next news is on BBC One at 10 to 6. Goodbye from me.
A very good afternoon to you. You may have just heard in the news report that our